Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spill the RT episode 50. What? Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, Eamon, I'm doing well. 50, 50. And I just
Yeah,
noticed you turned my head into a bobblehead on the opening screen there. Very nice. Thank you very much. Thank
yeah,
you, thank you,
baby.
thank you.
Yeah, I did. I did. We're now bobbling. We're just bobbing around. I've just upgraded all of the intro material because we're 50 now, and we're very professional.
Woo!
Woo!
50. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
I know. Oh my
They,
goodness.
they they said it couldn't be done. Let's face it, they said it shouldn't be done. But
They said it.
nonetheless,
No.
I don't think anybody said it actually.
I think people were like, "You're putting him on camera." What? You're going to let him speak about things and have a view on the art world? What? Him being me, of course, not you, Josh. Never.
Here we are though.
Here
50
we are. Here
episodes.
we are. And we hope you've enjoyed the wonderful journey of the last 50 episodes. And remember, if you'd like to watch all of them back again, do a little what's that called when you sit down and you binge? Do a binge watch. Do a marathon.
Don't
Spill the RT
don't
episodes.
don't Netflix and chill. Spill the RT and chill.
It has absolutely the same type of ring to that
It
as
does.
Netflix
It
and chill. Yeah,
does.
it just rolls off the tongue.
You're looking for a euphemism for sex? Why not use spill the RT as that euphemism?
Oh
That's what
dear,
I say.
and we've gone from PG right up to R-rated in just one little sentence. Thank you very much, Josh. Always you, baby. Always you. So, in celebration of our 50th anniversary, we have a returning guest and producer of Spill the RT, but we will reveal who that is after we introduce what stories we have. So, we'll keep you guessing as to who that might be. But
Could it
follow
be?
follow through the credits of our recent episodes, and you will put all of the jigsaw pieces together to find out who it is. But,
Exact.
Josh,
Pause
pause.
here.
Pause
Go
here.
watch the last 49
The
episodes
pause symbol. Yep.
and then come back
Yep.
and
Work it
leave a
out.
comment. Leave a comment below what your guess is before you keep watching. How's that?
Comments below. Although this looks like I'm singling,
See, I'm the one.
signaling
I took
down.
it to R, but he took it to X. That's all I'm saying. Nonetheless, this
Nonetheless,
week,
this week
this
on Spill the
week,
RT.
speaking of sex, a 200-year-old erotic condom is now on display.
Oh dear.
Wait
What an
for it.
intro.
Wait for it. The Rediscovery industrial complex has now become booming business in the art world. The world's smallest violin,
Just for you, Josh.
just for me, of course. The visual language of crystals, we get Eamon's Science of the Week, and Hilma off Klint's super naturalism. Little dash should be in there. Although I guess either way is fine. All
Oh,
that,
thank you.
all that, and a returning beloved guest. See, beloved guest.
I love
Again,
it.
leave your comment below. Are up next as we spill the art tea. Welcome to episode 50.
50! 50! Echo, echo, echo. Is there anybody out there listening to us on episode 50? If you are,
Anyway,
leave it in the comments below, folks. And before we bring on our
anyway,
guest, Josh,
smash,
smash
smash
it,
it,
smash
smash
it.
it. Like, share, subscribe, that little bell thingy or whatever. Send it 3 friends. Leave a comment. Buy some swag. Tell a sponsor they should sponsor us. Send them emails on their contact us pages. Tell them
Yes.
there's a great place they could be spending their money.
Okay. And remember, we're on Thursdays now, just in case you haven't noticed. And that's what that bell will do, Josh. It will remind you of when we're on. Ding, ding, ding. You want that
Now,
reminder? You want that reminder in your inbox? Okay, so it's time to bring on our 50th episode guest, our returning fabulous Katrina Tracuma. Come on down. Hey, girl. Hi.
Woo!
Woo, woo, woo.
50th! 50th
Yes,
birthday!
baby. Yes, baby. How are you doing, Katrina?
I feel young
Feeling young.
considering it's,
Considering we're 50.
50s. We're entering, the next chapter of our lives.
Yes. Well, we're going into the next phase and into the second demi-decade. So, or no, demi-century. Demi-century, not demi-decade. Anyway, there you
See, all
go.
the best things last centuries.
Okay, so we have to wait for another 50 episodes before we can call ourselves best. Okay.
We're on the way there, though.
We're on the way there. We're halfway there. Josh, will
Hmm.
you put up with
Yeah.
me for another 50 episodes?
Let's see how this one
Actually,
goes.
actually, will I put up with you is really more of the point. Um, we have quite the lineup for you today, folks. We've plenty of stories as we spoke about just in our introduction. And Katrina, as always, we'll find out what's happening in your worlds. But until then, let's get on with the first story. So where are we going to first?
Off we go to the Netherlands to a
Here
guess.
we
I guess it's called the Rijksmuseum, the Rijksmuseum. I don't know. I don't speak Dutch, so I don't know. But
the week,
what's
I
on
think.
display?
Mm,
What's on display there is a 200-year-old condom. Now, what makes
okay.
this special is it's a condom with a picture on it, and apparently that's really sexy 200 years ago. Picture of a nun.
Right. Well, here it is. Here is the picture of the condom. I mean, I'm not sure it even looks like a condom. It looks more like what would
Well,
be wrapped in that said condom. But
so here's
it's,
the good question. What do you
yes.
think that condom's made of?
Mm, I reckon it, but from, it looks like newspaper print, like newsprint.
No, no. It's definitely something that's like dried up over time. And
Yeah.
most people would say, well, Katrina, what do you think it's made of? What do you think it's made of?
Well, I'm aware that like the first condoms were made from animal kind of
Yes,
intestines or skins or other body
right.
What?
parts.
So most people would say, right, intestine. No, it's a sheep's appendix.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, which just makes it even weirder to me. Maybe that's why it's stood the test of time, no pun intended, because the intestine would have broken down. I don't know. But nonetheless, this is a piece of cultural, historical significance to the Dutch.
um, okay.
and
Um,
beyond, not just the
and
Dutch.
beyond, that's, I mean, okay.
Human history.
Well,
Josh,
it has
hello.
protected them from procreating, I suppose. Um,
Well,
so I suppose it's
if it stood the test of time like this, then presumably this might be why there aren't as many Dutch in the world as there are
potentially,
other.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Right?
it's dead intact. I mean, I don't know if Durex are as good anymore. To be fair, it's not something that
Wait, do
I
you
had the
think
opportunity to test.
this ever used though?
I'm
Like,
pretty sure this
what if
one is
it was a
unused.
novelty item? What if it was like a novelty item of the time?
Sure, okay. Which is still then speaks to what was not the novelty item of the time.
Okay, what is drawn on it?
It's a nun spreading her legs for three men.
Clergymen, that's important to note.
I really shouldn't have asked that question.
So there's a joke, at least there was a joke a long time ago about when you used a condom. On the very end of the condom, there's actually like a number because each condom is individually numbered on the condom itself, apparently, in case there's a problem with the condom lot. And so
Okay.
the
Hmm.
joke was someone would say, well, I didn't know that. Like, well, I guess you never had to roll it down long enough to find it. Right. So, but here, look where the picture is.
Oh, let
It's
me go
like
back.
smack in the middle. It's smack in the middle
Oh,
of the condom. So I think we're also sending a message perhaps about penile size and
that's a good question. Is it to scale
well, presumably,
of like a of
what
what a standard condom size would potentially be? I mean, whatever
what
that
good
is.
would a waterbed be as a condom, right? Like you
Mm,
want something that's pretty much roughly the size and shape of, the appendage.
the appendage. Yes, indeed. So you'd reckon that they'd have to use maybe a magnifying glass in order to get the detail into that image.
I don't know, but this does bring to mind, remember the Bayeux tapestry?
I do.
Remember
With
there was
how
the
could I
whole
forget?
controversy.
How could I
There
forget
was
with
the
all
whole
of those appendages?
controversy
As yes.
counting the number of wallies. So perhaps some of those wallies on the tapestry are sheep appendices.
Ah, okay. I would have been confused by that myself, and I'd have find it difficult to identify those. But, if you knew, it's
Interweb sleuths, we
a
have
more,
now set in motion a new rabbit hole you can chase down. Get back
okay.
to us. Leave it in the comments below.
The more you know, the more you know. All you find in Spill the RT is these random ass images of, of of condoms with images of nuns spreading their
Hey,
legs. God
hey,
bless them.
this is of cultural significance
It
to
is.
the Dutch,
Yes,
and we have slammed on the Dutch over and over again.
we
And
have.
I'll point out, apparently, this condom has survived the mold issues that other museums in the Dutch land have
Yeah,
had problems with. So,
absolutely. We
See,
covered that
that's
in previous
significant.
episodes. Yeah. It's a maybe we should start looking into creating those sorts of condoms going forward. We should write to Jurex. We'll write to Jurex and tell them, look at this. This has survived so long since like was it 200 years old. So yeah, well done, excellent job.
oof.
I don't think the
That tea is
sheep would
spilt.
be very
No,
thrilled with that
no, it really wouldn't. It's
prospect.
not exact. It's not exactly vegan, Katrina. No.
And
So,
also, who's to say the Durex isn't going to last forever, considering all this plastic is going
hey,
to be here
Durex, if
until
you
our
want to
great great
sponsor,
grandchildren?
We've mentioned it at least 5 times now, Josh. So they at least owe us about 5 million.
we'll take. Hey, we could also mention the robot vagina. Like, there's all kinds of stuff out there in the universe. It's always sponsored. The number one podcast in the world is sponsored by like robot
You seem very
sex
familiar
device.
about such things now,
I do.
Josh.
I
The
listen to it every
next
week.
episode guest I can predict is going to
Nope.
be a representative from the legal team.
Oh dear, Darren,
Just
Darren, you need
saying.
legal
Just
representation,
saying.
please. Help,
So,
help. Okay, moving on, moving on.
speaking of representation, off we
Yes,
go to the
nice
New York
segue
art
there.
scene. Thank you. Off we go to the New York art scene. And I knew that we were going to have Katrina on. And so, as a living female artist, struggling to get her air in the
She's doing
art
very
world,
well. How dare you?
she is, but that's the struggle that we all have, right?
Yes.
So there is now what's called the rediscovery industry complex that has evolved. We no longer just find someone who was looked over in the past and then bring them to fruition for people to go, wow, that's a cool artist. Ever wonder why it is Hilma off Klint went from basically no one knowing who she was to basically being everywhere, including in our podcast today, in a
Mm-hmm.
very, very rapid time? I mean, we're talking less than a decade for her to go from like no one knowing who she was, unless they were hardcore art historical minded, to everybody having a sense of who she is. It's kind of the people you're looking at in the picture here who are major dealers in the art world. And the way this works is no longer just like finding someone from the past. They literally have a whole campaign and a series of things they do to make sure when it comes to auction, this shit will sell and sell for big money. Which is, this is the art world, right? That's what is most of concern here. It's not really about the artist as the artist per se. I mean, you could say, okay, yes, but at the end of the day, they have bills to pay, right? And they have a lifestyle to maintain. Katrina, what do you think as the living artist of the female persuasion amongst our panel here?
The female persuasion, the token female rep. To me, obviously, the concern is actual living artists once again, because it's all for profit. I can't even access the article. The New York Times is behind the paywall, guys. I couldn't even I see the picture, but beyond that,
That's so
So
I read
funny.
maybe the first paragraph or something. But yeah, I just feel bad
trick for
for
everybody. Trick for everybody out there. Refresh the article on your phone and then very quickly hit the little thing that lets you show the reader, and it gives you the alternate view of the article, and you could usually then read the whole article.
Josh, you're going to have the Irish Times on to us
excellent.
next. And they'll be telling
I
us.
also know
Excellent.
there's
They'll
an
be like,
easy way to do
stop
it on the
giving away our
browser.
secrets.
If you're on a browser, go up to the setup and turn off the Java and then refresh the page. Done.
You heard
Sorry.
nothing. You heard nothing.
Information wants to be free. Screw you, paywalls. Sorry.
That's how they
It'll
pay for
all
their
be
journalism.
censored. Yeah.
Sorry, Katrina, continue.
Everybody's got to make bread. Everybody out of the living has got to make bread. Like the journalists, the art world representatives. What about the living artists? I mean,
Literally.
yes, the historical canon needs more female voices, just female, options, because you can't have the criticism of well, you don't have enough of female artists quoted in your sources. But it's how are you becoming aware of them if the curriculum, mostly in the art history context, is always taught, 99% male artist names. So how would you
Yeah.
find out about them? So yes, they're doing important work in terms of the art history aspect, but then why can't this effort and this desire to bring about representation to the living artists be there?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
See,
Where's that?
you're raising two different issues, right? Part of it is on the art historical side of things. Up until, let's say, the mid 19th century, it was very difficult for most women to be granted access to be able to make art in the way that we're talking about. So, up until a certain point, there's a lack of this in the historical record. What we're really talking about is like the post war periods and on into contemporary art. Right. And what would bug me is all this money is being spent on artists who may not even be alive anymore while there are living artists, like you could divvy the money up that goes to any one of these campaigns to produce $1 million auction sale.
mm,
Divvy it up among, I don't even know how many living artists, and they would all get a boost into their career, money wise, not even just cash, right?
yeah.
Just keep them afloat to keep making more work. And that this is like the opposite of that. This is like giving up the ghost to just pure art market money, which I
Okay.
guess is that's how it works.
Yeah.
There's also an interesting, I can add a little note of like difference between art markets, because obviously this is America centered, right? This
Yeah.
is going on in the great big art scene of the USA. It's interesting, for example, in Latvia, where I live, much smaller country, where you can go to auction houses and you can buy like Latvian uh, art history canon significant name artworks, paintings for as little as 200, 250, 300 euro.
Mhm.
And then that currently has kind of fueled this conversation amongst contemporary artists and art enjoyers and art critics within Latvia about how artists living today are asking for so much higher in terms of their prices and the work that they sell, that it like the numbers don't add up to people on the outside world, because the artists that are already dead and represented by these auction houses, all the profits go straight to the auction house or whoever is
Yeah.
the owner of the painting. There is
Right.
no 60%, 40% division between artist slash gallery or rep or whatever. And that like creates this discourse where people enjoying art in the contemporary scene go to exhibitions, go to markets, and they have a big, hubbub about the prices. Because it's like, how can you, a recent graduate, be selling anything for like 1,000 euro when I can buy this classic art artist, big name in terms of like the Latvian history context at an auction house for like 1/5 of the price? How is that possible?
Mm,
So the value is completely all over the place.
Well, it's
yeah.
the same way in the US, right? And like really when we're talking about this high art market, it's not just the US because it's the London, Paris, New York, LA, Tokyo, right? Like there's a series of places where these things take place. Now Dubai is the big one that all this is like shifting over to. That's a different tranche than the living artists that are in any of those cities. The irony to me is the number of BAs and MFAs, BFAs and MFAs in the world for decades now is more women than men, right? So just on a pure quantitative number kind of way of looking at this, there are way more living artists who are female than male, right? At a certain point, it will filter
Absolutely.
upwards.
Yeah. But I mean,
But
even look,
what's weird about
yeah.
this to me, it's just the money that gets spent into
Mm,
doing some of these things because it is the age thing. A piece that was done 75 years ago at auction is going to bring a shit ton more money than even the best, greatest current living female painter or illustrator,
yeah.
right? Because the market wants the scarcity of post death. A living artist can always make more. And so the value on their pieces is always indeterminate as a result.
Yeah.
That's that's the end of the result for the market.
But I think you raise a valid point. Like, I mean, even thinking back to my undergrad, 15 years ago, it was kind of very much predominantly female artists. Like, there was maybe 80 that began. They didn't end up with 80 students, but it definitely started with
Right.
80, and of which maybe 15 of us were male. Or, um,
Mhm.
yeah. So like I mean that hasn't changed. That's definitely not changed. If anything, it's going the other way. It's going even more the other way. Um,
My MFA started as 2 guys and 9 ladies.
yeah.
We finished as 1 guy and 8 ladies.
Hmm. I think that's a general arts situation, though. In
Mhm.
general, across the arts, there's a lot more female blood in the arts
So
than there is male.
I guess, and it doesn't, I don't want it to sound condescending, right? But it literally is kind of like an issue of just wait long enough, and the
Yeah.
numbers alone will eventually filter upwards. It doesn't help the living artists today, right?
No.
It's like knowing if I stick around as an artist, man or woman, and I just keep producing across decades, I'm likely to end up being successful at some point. It doesn't help me with all the time where I'm like, can I trade a painting for a meal, please? Right? Like
Hmm.
You
that's
gotta get back into doing that. That seems like so practical and such a fun
It's like
time.
what go into a cafe and be like, if I could
Yeah,
get
just
this sandwich,
trade
could I give you
more.
this? I'll give you this little sketch if you can give me like, I don't know, a nice sandwich and a coffee.
make friends with the people who are working in those positions, and that's exactly what you're able to do. I can
Yeah.
say from personal experience.
Okay. I mean, what do I do when I go to my local grocer and I'm like, oh, here's my whole grocery order. Would you mind taking a painting of a lovely, I don't know, here's this abstract painting that I threw together yesterday.
If you know that that person has a younger child who likes something and needs a commission, that's exactly how you might turn that into trading of food for art. There's
Okay,
always an opportunity, folks. You got to go looking for it because
I
the
mean,
fish
yeah,
doesn't
unless you
jump into the
try,
basket.
true.
you gotta try.
Well,
Yep.
that tea
At
is
least I
spilling.
tried. At least I tried. Oh, we got it on camera for once. At
At
least I
least I
tried.
tried.
See?
Yeah, baby. Look at that.
See?
Aww.
That's one of
Yep.
his many tats, guys. Not that I
Yep.
know any more of them, but that's the one I know.
Moving on.
Moving swiftly along.
So I don't even know where this is, where they did this, but apparently the world's smallest violin is point. It's 13 microns by 35 microns, which means that
It's
it's like a
tiny.
hair. A hair is like 1,000 times. It was a picture of this in one of the images I saw. A hair and then the violin, and you can't even find the violin in the image where the hair is. Like that's how tiny this thing is, and apparently it's playable. So there you go. I just thought that was kind of cool. It is literally the world's smallest violin playing for
How is
all of
it
our
playable? How
sorrows.
do they play it?
Apparently they can like manipulate it using either I guess nanoscale instruments, like
Mm,
not an instrument as in that sense, but like the equivalent of a finger that could like go across it like a bow would, that would produce a tone.
yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
just, but it's really really tiny.
oh wow. It's quite incredible. And what do you think they'll make next? Maybe like, a mini piano? Or like,
So I think honestly, I think where this kind of stuff leads is more into medicine, and because what's
yeah.
coming is things that will be injected into our bodies that would then do various things to them without involving any kind of surgery whatsoever, right? Like you
Oh,
need
I'm
your
here.
arteries cleaned,
Um,
need
can it
your
go in?
arteries
Can,
cleaned.
can it go in as a capsule though, rather than as an injection? I don't really
I,
like.
I hey look, I
Maybe
can't
you could
speak to
look.
how you
Maybe
want it.
maybe you
I'm
could
not.
get. Maybe you could get on that, Josh. I'm not here for the needles.
I am not in charge.
No, no.
I'll get right on that. I'll add it to my
Yes,
list.
please. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to hearing your results from our next episodes. Thank you very much. I don't want anything that will pierce the skin, so just go in the mouth or up the other way. Either
So
way is fine.
Katrina, where are
On
you on
that
any of
note,
this?
yeah, where am I in any of this? Well, my thoughts are about the interesting decision of how they made, the violin the
Mm,
first test subject of this whole experiment to do with these nano quantum singularity sizes that I do not comprehend at all. Maybe one of these scientists went to music school at some point. Is it a personal connection? Like, because it seems pretty random. A
No,
violin. Why? I'd
I
be
think this
interested to
was
find out more.
this was more about creating the strings and being able to get them to vibrate inside the
Of
mechanism of
course.
the violin. Because up to now, they've been doing things like cogs and wheels, where you can see them like able to move against each other, just the way a normal cog and wheel would, but like really, really small. This is taking it to the next level of actually being able to produce sound. Because again, in the context of like medicine, where you want to produce things like ultrasonic and hypersonic sounds that help to break down things in the body,
Mm.
like you have a kidney stone, inject a bunch of this, or take a capsule if you're afraid of the injection or whatever, and then they go to work on your kidney and they eat the stone, right?
Mm.
Like that's what this is kind of moving towards, by being able to
Okay.
create vibrational frequencies and different kinds of things like that.
Well, I was thinking because if they're creating a violin for this at this scale, you're going to need millions of them in order to like hear an orchestra sound. So it's just like, I mean, what is the main objective here? Or they'd need like a super microphone that's like entirely amazing at what it does to pick up the sound and the acoustic of it in order to make any
It's
form of
true.
resonance.
It's very true. I
Yeah,
don't think that we would actually be able to perceive it very much because of how small it is.
yeah.
But in the context of like applications like in the body, that's probably what you want. You probably
Okay.
don't want it like extending further than that.
So they made it for science and not for music.
Well, I think the combination of the two is the way I would put it.
Okay.
The one
Okay, cool.
often leads to the other.
It does, yeah. No, it does. The rhythm of life, you know,
Well, you know that surgeons
the rhythm
often
of
listen to
music.
classical music. Well, they often put classical music on while they're operating because it
Mm.
helps to keep them calm. The
Yeah,
last thing you want is a jittery surgeon, right? Like that's
no,
really not what you're looking for.
no, not here for that at all. Don't want that. No, no, no. But if they've got lovely, nice music playing in the background, then isn't that all that makes sense? That's what we're here for. And at that note, and on that note, on that note, we're go
Ha ha
we're gonna take a little
ha
break
ha
and
ha!
and talk a little bit about Nua Collective. So we'll be right back after these very fine messages about Nua Collective. Nua Collective, an arts community collective with art artists and art publications added weekly to our online collection at nuacollective.com, with actually a very special article by Katrina Tracuma that has recently been published. So check that out at www.nuacollective.com. Here you will also find our Nua Journal featuring articles and podcasts, which are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss us out on Spilling the RT every Thursday. Yeah, baby. So that's what we're to do. And Josh, what are the guests to do, and the viewers, and the visitors, and the people who are listening, and the people who are watching, and all of the above?
The guests, I'm assuming they should show up. Everybody else should like, share, subscribe,
Oh, and get some
send
swag, because that's the button I pressed, which I meant to press this one, but yeah.
send to 3 friends, buy some swag. We've got good swag, man. Come on, look.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. I'm going back to
Come on.
episode. I'm going back. Oh, look, you all got your mug. Mine's left in London. I'm in Ireland at the moment. So, what I would like to do is bring back the Eamon from episode one, who was thinking that he was like pure hipster. Yeah, man, bring it on. Whoop, whoop. No, let's leave him behind. He's back there.
Okay.
He's back there.
So now, moving on.
Hey, hey, girl, hey, relax. All right, we're getting a nice pace. Okay, so moving on to our next story. Where are we heading to next, Josh? Stealing my
Off we go to Paris for
en
Science of the
Paris.
Week Part 2.
Okay,
Now, if you pull up a picture of the crystal,
okay.
right? How long do you think it takes to end up taking a picture of something like this?
Depends on how quick the camera is.
So it's not a single shot. This is
Okay.
produced through like 7 or 8 months of growth over time. There's an
Ooh.
artist named Thomas Blanchard, and what he does is he starts crystals going and then he lets them go, and he just takes time-lapse photography of like 6 months, 8 months, 10
Wow.
months. And what you end up is these kinds of organically evolving structures. That's
Okay.
not like tree or I guess sea kelp. That's crystal that you're seeing instead.
Wow.
Because
So,
nature has
so is
patterns
this?
that repeat.
So is that this is a time lapse rather than an individual
That's a single
piece?
shot from a time lapse, yeah, that would
Okay.
have
Okay.
started smaller and then bigger. So this guy's kind of like part scientist, part artist, part videographer, I guess you'd say, because he's capturing these things growing over time. And they grow, each crystal has its own particular pattern and way that it grows, but they always grow in patterns that are familiar from other parts of nature.
Very good, very good. I think it does look like a tree, as you would suggest
Mhm.
it was, and think it actually looks very like a Christmas tree.
Mhm.
Which is kind of cool, you know, when they kind of frost them, especially in the kind of cheap
Yeah.
Christmas stores. Yeah, no, it's just incredible. It reminds me of the snowflakes story that we covered around Christmas time. Ironically, I've just got Christmas on the mind. So I think that it's just really great to see how macro things happen. But in this case, it's not necessarily macro, is it? It's kind of
Well, it's the macro pattern that arises
yeah,
out of the
yeah, of
micro, right?
course. Yeah, no, it's just beautiful.
What do you think, Katrina?
It's interesting how the creator of these images noted all of the similarities between shapes, patterns that are already existed in nature, such as the mycelium of mushrooms, feathers, corals, even broccoli and
Yeah.
trees, as you said. I looked at the video, and especially the movement as well captured, to me, reminded me of like explosions, the
Hmm.
kind of more something more destructive than alive, and the black and white footage as well, which is also like an interesting, because like it's part of, you know, destruction is part of creation. So this whole philosophical approach and all of these symbols to do with the creation of life, yeah, it's very poignant piece.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
as always,
beautiful.
I
It's
I
beautiful.
always like to point out when like hyperrealism fades back into abstract, right? And so you're looking at something that is like truly exactly what's there, but
Mm,
it's precisely what you do with it, less than what is actually there, which
yeah,
is that's the essence of abstract art, right?
yeah.
And so to me, it's like all this stuff is just on a continuum. What I'm always interested in is when patterns repeat, because many years ago it was a book I read called The Seven Mysteries of Life by Guy Murchie, and it really did change the way I ended up looking at all the things around me, because
Mm,
if you do start to see, you start to see the same patterns that show up
yeah.
again and again and again.
That's
And
evident
it's
through the
not
art behind you, Josh.
sure, absolutely,
Mm.
but also in like relationships with people, interactions
Mm,
with people, right? Like there are patterns of how stuff happens. And so system dynamics is really interesting because on the one hand, it seems like it's too big, but on the other hand, systems are always controlled by individuals. And so as individuals, you can actually change the way the world is happening, even though you can't see it. It's an act
mm,
of faith, not an act of proof, right? You
okay.
got to do it to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's something that we've done with the podcast too. You know,
Hmm.
we just did it to make it happen, and it's happening.
Yep.
And now we're at 50
We're a Kevin,
episodes.
we're a Kevin Costner movie waiting to be made.
Oh my God, stop it. Stop
Kevin
it.
Costner can play you.
I play myself. Thank you very much. Which part of me will I play? I will decide later. However, I will play myself.
Wait, are you Eamon or Ben? Who do we have on today?
We've been out of this. He struggles, I struggle, we all struggle to share and identify who we really are. Sometimes that's just difficult, okay? Moving swiftly along. That tea is spilt on the wonderful crystals. And yes, if anybody'd like to buy me some crystal, I'd like that very much. Thank you. And not the meth kind. So, moving into our next story.
Lastly, I guess we go. I think it was MoMA that set this in motion, right? So, talking about the Rediscovery Industrial Complex,
Yes.
MoMA in New York has been going through off Klint's sort of past works, and has now created a whole separate kind of subgenre of her work, which is about the naturalism and the connection between the supernatural and nature for
Mm,
her. And so, a series of these prints and drawings and things have begun to circulate. And if you're familiar, Off Klimt is one of the first original op artists. She's very much geometric and doing all kinds of things, but doing it in a sort of very much nature inspired, very much spiritually guided kind of way, as
mm,
opposed to what often happened in the post war period, which is much more like technology driven reasons for creating stuff that looks sort of modern and sleek. Her
mm.
stuff is always very kind of mystical and has a certain sense of whimsy to it. And so these drawings too, I think there's a certain, if you're familiar with her work, you can see it in these works too.
I think they're really, really beautiful, and actually, they're not dissimilar to your work, Katrina. I think in how you do your drawings and your paintings. I think that they're a real reflection of nature and the gentle quality of nature. Again, not unlike your work. What do you think,
Aw.
Katrina?
Oh, I'm a bit lost for words there with that praise, but I am definitely a fan of Hilma af Klint. Like, I wish to see her works in real life at some point. I've never yet had the opportunity to do that, but
Oh,
I wasn't aware of this collection obviously at all. So this like brings about a completely new interest because obviously the theme of nature and art is very dear to my practice. So
mm,
I would absolutely love to see them in real life and just, yeah, thinking about her whole motivation for making work and how she deliberately decided to keep it away from people, keep it a secret, only to be discovered after she had passed. There's so much mysticism, just, in that story alone. And then with every piece, like the more I see works by her, there's just so much behind them that's again bringing back the kind of universal languages of symbols and shapes and colors and everything to do with mysticism, spirituality. It's just fascinating.
yeah.
Well,
No, I think, yeah,
the issue of intentionality often comes up, particularly when we're talking about artists who are intentionally putting their work out into the public, and then the public tends to reinterpret it as they want to. For an artist like this, or someone like Emily Dickinson, where the goal was never really to circulate the work during their lifetime, I think the intentions matter more in that kind of way, right? Because there's a kind of insularity that you don't really understand what's going on with the work without it. To me, what I was looking at this, what it reminded me most of was stuff from like the late 19th century, Edwardian, Bulwer Lytton, these like flowery drawings. You see it a lot in older books. The linings of older books, the front piece and the back piece have these kinds of nature sorts of drawings. And it really kind of reminded me of that. And of course, she would have been aware of that kind of stuff, right? She's not doing work in isolation out of a sense of the history doesn't matter. She's doing her own work, drawing on that, and wants to create this kind of universe of her own
yeah,
ideas.
yeah. And I think I think that's just amazing that art can do that in general, and I feel that's something that a lot of us try to do is to try and see the supernatural in our work and in our world and try to bring that into our practice, where whether it is a literal or abstract thing. I think that's just phenomenal, really.
Well, I think the power of being an artist, the difference is if you want to have your own micro world, you actually can bring it into reality,
Yeah, isn't that kind of
right?
cool?
Like plenty of people have stories in their heads they've been telling themselves since they were children. But I
Yeah,
think the key difference is the artist has the agency to actually enact it. That's why I
yeah,
would argue anyone has that agency, but you have
yes,
to act on it to make it happen,
you
right? And the
do.
artist is like, just like, damn it, I'm going to do it. I don't care. And that's why
Abs-
I admire most artists like this who like do it in isolation, who are
yeah,
not doing it for public praise, who
sure.
don't want to sell their work. They just want to make the work because they need to make it. And as a musician, as an artist, I know exactly what that feels like because that's exactly what's been as long as I can remember. I don't do this because I have to do it. I do it because there's no other way to do it. This is how I do, right? Like this is how I am. And so when you can see that, and that insularity is not a bad thing. It's not like the mad person in the attic. It's the person who's like working through what they want their process, their practice, and their projects to be. And it can be really powerful because of that.
No, that's really sweet. Yeah, no, I really like
Well,
it. I do.
to me, I just see a connection between someone like this and someone like Picasso, not
Yeah,
because of their aesthetics, but because of like the single-mindedness of making
sure.
and creating.
Yeah. And but also where that can go within your own
Yeah.
imagination, I think that's just incredible. Um, yeah, that's really sweet. What a nice story to finish on today. It's very nice. I think that is all of our stories, but we have a very important story to talk about now, and that's obviously Katrina Tracuma of Latvia, Riga. Katrina, what's happening in your life at the moment? Where are you heading to? What's going on?
Well, I'm mainly preparing myself for August, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bit of work still left to finish in June, and then hoping to maybe possibly take July off. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, in
Okay.
August, I am participating in the seasonal Algam Festival, which is like a usually lasting just one day festival celebrating seasonal vegetables and fruits and produce
Ah.
that we have here in Latvia, and to kind of champion the plant-based lifestyle. And I've been kind of getting involved with that. Very grateful on the side of organizers of this event to be kind of inviting me once again.
Mm.
And for August, I'll be representing the very first exhibition of the Art of Compassion project, which is an international artist collective who all have something in common. We make artwork to do with animal rights, and this will be the first representation of AOCP in Latvia as a kind of art poster exhibition during which we will be raising funds for a local animal rescue
Oh,
who are
amazing.
like, yeah, the only aquatic animal rescue in the Baltics, Aquariga. So they would take care of a lot of fish, and they have turtles, and they have several aquariums, and they would rehome animals as well, or just keep taking care of the ones that cannot be rehomed. And they also provide information and advice to people who, you know, have fish as pets at home, to give them the best possible lifestyle that they can be given considering the circumstances, you know. A
Yeah.
lot of exotic species of animals that are obviously taken out of their natural habitats and environments and then kept, you know, in aquariums. So yeah, they do very important work. So we're eager to like help and support them,
Cool.
and hopefully, yeah, raise some funds with the sale of art posters.
Cool. You've been part of the Arctic Compassion Project for a while, haven't you? It's been a number of years that you've been involved. And how international is that project?
So, yeah, I believe I was still doing my bachelor's in fine art when I found out about the organization, and I
Mm.
wrote to them to join. And it's very similar to the Nua Collective in that it's the members of the organization that, you know, make the collective and make things happen. So, like, we have members in America mostly. I believe I'm the only one in Latvia at the moment, but
Okay.
I'm trying to change that actively because I'm constantly championing for people to join it. But you know, smaller countries, so just yeah. But there's also members mostly from the UK, and Ireland has a few representatives I know.
Oh,
Also
brilliant.
China and like, you
Oh,
know, Australia. So we would take on the responsibility as individuals of the collective to then mostly participate in like veg fests, with which again is a much bigger movement in the UK and in the US. But outside of that, even yeah, we've had exhibitions in China as well, and Spain. Spain is very active in terms of the animal rights activists. So yeah, we're doing our best, and hopefully this August, if anybody is in the Baltics or in Latvia on the 2nd of August, stop by and visit us.
brilliant, brilliant. No, that's really good. That's really good. And I think that like it's just they just do fabulous work. You've got other stuff going on here. I've got this fabulous photograph of you, Katrina. Are you ready for it, people? Because it's just really cool. Are you ready? Are you ready? Boom. Hi.
Boom.
What's happening here, Katrina? It's in your signature
So,
look.
yeah, this is a shot from the winter festival of Algam. So, yeah, as I mentioned, they do it like 4 times a year with the change of every season, which is kind of, you know, great. I feel like because festivals usually are like an annual or biannual thing. So it makes sense that with like the seasons changing and the different produce being in season and available, that you kind of reinvigorate bringing together lots of different food vendors to try all sorts of plant-based, delicious, yummy food. And they do workshops as well. Like for summer, apart from the AOCP venture, I'm also going to be providing live portraits as I've done in the past for the
Fab.
spring event, which I believe might be the next photo. And I am also going to be helping out with lino printing workshop as well, where people are going to be able to come and bring any t-shirts or textiles that they want to print with some lino cuts that I've made.
Oh,
And
what
yeah,
a
put
great
some
idea. Oh, I love
vegetables
that.
all over.
That's
Yeah.
such a great idea to kind of use their own kind of materials and for you to kind of like
Mhm.
put your own print on it. That's great. I love that idea. Such a cool thing to do. Amazing. We have also this um project here. What is this project about?
Yeah, so that's just the image of the website for Aquarig. They have a very interactive, nice website when you actually go onto it. It's like a
Cool.
live aquarium, like a video. But they're also very like passionate and enthusiastic about what they do. So I recommend checking out their socials. They're very good with keeping up with them and posting a lot of information. You can also actually get a tour at their rescue. You can go and visit them, and they will tell you all about the inhabitants and their stories and how they got there and what are their prognosis and all the different types of species of fish that they have. So yeah, lots of for anyone interested in animals and aquatic
Nice.
life. I highly recommend Aquarig.
Amazing, amazing, cool, deadly, deadly. Well, we've got like a whole load of things to do with you, so Katrina, over the next few months. And again, of course, make sure you check out Katrina's profile at Kiss for Art, or AKISFORKATART, on all of the amazing social channels that you can get your access to all of that information on. How cool is that? And Katrina, what is your web address again for all of those people who are going to go and stalk you now?
Oh my goodness, it's very basic. It sounds better in English. It's just my name and my surname, katrinatracuma.com. It sounds weird in Latvian because my name has obviously, the Latvian symbols for which I cannot include in a web address. But
No.
in English, it's
I
it's
know
all
I
official and
had
fine.
that issue as well today when I was putting in your name as your little tag there. So yeah, we're very basic as English folk. Yeah, so there you go. English
I'm
speaking
not
folk.
basic.
Well, we know
I'm
that,
not
Josh.
basic.
We know that, but you've got a little violin now, so you're all happy in your corner. It's all good. It's all good. But Katrina, once again, thank you for being such a fabulous institution within the Spill the RT family, and of course within Nua Collective. Josh, have you anything else that you'd like to say today in our 50th episode?
We made it to 50. Who knew?
Who knew?
Woo!
We knew.
Guys, this is big. This is huge.
Pump up the party. Yeah, yeah, pump up the party. Okay, well, while we go and pump up the party, pop that bottle of champers and get ready for our next 50 episodes. Remember, folks, to like, share, subscribe, and all of that jazz. Leave a comment in the comments below. Wish us a happy birthday or a happy 50th episode. Buy some swag, like Josh's lovely mug right there. And remember, if you'd like to be a guest, contact us at hello@newacollective.com. That's all we have time for today, everyone. But until next week, stay creative and stay spilling that RT. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.